Hello, I'm Missing Charlie's Angels cast member Trevor Ashley, and welcome to Drag Hag. On this week, we recap episode 5 of RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under with my celebrity drag hag Lucy Smith, as well as interview the eliminated queen.
You're a drag hag, you're a drag hag, a bona fide first class, a drag hag, you're a drag hag, you're a drag hag, a bona fide mother-tucking first class, drag hag.
So today, my celebrity drag hag is the amazing Triple J presenter all-star, Lucy Smith. She's here. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh, I'm so excited.
Darling, I know you're a big fan of drag.
Yes.
Now, do you remember when you saw your first drag queen?
You know what? So I'm from Wollongong, which is, unless they're a St. George Illawarra Dragons player, they're probably not going to, be up on a main stage in the gong. So it wasn't until I moved to Sydney that I actually saw my first drag queen. And it was when I was 21 years old. I was at the Beresford for a friend's birthday. And it was Maxi Shields.
How crazy!
It was a Sunday session. Maxi was there. And it was so wild to me because, of course, I'd seen drag queens growing up on TV and whatnot. But to see Maxi there, who, I'm from a family of rugby players, built like a brick shit house, just absolutely rocking it. She's covered in tattoos and I wanted to reach out and touch her. She was just incredible. But yeah, that was my first IRL exposure to drag at the Beresford seeing Maxi. It was amazing. So to have her on this season is just, feels like a full circle moment for me.
Oh,
I'll make it about myself.
It's good. Please do. I think that's smarter. Do you know, but you do love RuPaul's Drag Race,
Yes.
don't you?
Yes. So my favourite queen.
Yes.
Can I from any season or?
Any season you like.
Okay. It's Bimini Bombulash.
She's pretty
From the
excellent.
most recent UK season.
She's excellent.
Because people would always say, that's my queen, she's my queen. And I never quite got it. Of course, I had favourites. I loved Bianca Del Rio.
Yep.
I loved Alaska.
Yep.
But until I met Bimini, and I feel like I've met her, I feel like she's my friend, that's when I went, you're my person. I would die for you. Everything she does is just top tier. I love her social media presence. And the UK seasons in particular, they remind me of us.
Yes.
Because we're larrikins,
Absolutely.
we're a bit rough around the edges. So I really kind of connected with her. So she's been one of my favourites.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So have you yourself ever done drag?
No.
Do you have a drag name though? Have you got one saved up ready?
Well, this is the thing. In uni, my mates used to call me DJ Looshbag, kind of like douchebag, but
Yep.
Looshbag.
Yes.
Could my drag name be Looshbag?
I think so.
Does
I
that
love that
work?
as a drag name.
Maybe that's my drag name.
Looshbag.
Looshbag.
Heaven.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, look, we are going to move quickly because this episode was just so full of it. So let's recap episode 5 of RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under.
You know who I mean.
So here we are, top of episode 5. We've seen Anita Wiglet leave.
Yeah.
It was pretty devastating
I love
last
her.
week. She was a fantastic competitor.
Mm-hmm. And the girls are walking into the room. I did not expect Karen to be as affected as she was.
Oh, that is, look, I know Karen personally and he's just so nice. He's such a lovely person. And I just knew that he really would have been heartbroken because he has so much respect for everybody else in the competition. And I think that really would have knocked him around. And I think he thought he could have gone then too.
What do you think he meant when he said, a big portion of my head right now is outside reaction?
Yeah. I think he was basically just thinking about what people would feel because I think he knew that people would be so fond of Anita, that they would love Anita so much. And she's been so great on the show that I think it has been one of those moments for fans where we've gone, no, not yet, not yet.
Yeah.
I feel like because these seasons are short, like the UK, it doesn't feel enough like we get enough time with everybody.
Absolutely, yep, agreed.
And because they're all such strong personalities, it's been fabulous.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I thought it was a great exit, a great message on the mirror. I
Yeah.
love dry ass pussy. That made me laugh, which was so fabulous. But there was really an emotional reaction. We knew Keita was going to be upset.
Yes.
Her best mate. But it was a very emotional room there.
Yeah, and I think as well, you know, seeing the New Zealand queens have this moment of, okay, one of us is gone, we have to band together now. Like, this is us. And I think the Australian queens are, you know, kind of underestimating us.
We outnumber them
Yes.
so much. So now we're 2 and the remaining, what are we up to? Five, 7,
yeah.
how many are over 2? But, you know,
Maths.
they're all Aussies and there's 2 New Zealand. So I don't think it felt like as bad as it did now. And there was that big discussion that they had in the workroom, sort of this New Zealand versus Australia, you know, and the girls started going, oh, we better worry.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And I think as well, even that conversation between Keita and Electroshock being like, all right, you take 2, I'll take 3.
Yeah.
We've got this. Like, and I kind of like seeing that camaraderie between the 2 of them as well.
Yeah, because obviously we've seen so much of that relationship between Keita and Anita.
Yes.
We hadn't seen as much between Keita and Electra.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see that moment. And it's nice to see at all points in the show just that the relationships are obviously building between everybody because we're 5 in now, so they're at least in week 2 of shooting.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's starting to get, they're starting to band together even further.
Yep, find their little pieces of solace and the people that they can lean on and have a bit of a bitch to, you know?
Absolutely. Then we find out that our guests this episode, which one of, I think, the campus choices of celebrity guest Suzanne Paul.
Perfect.
I mean... I don't know what the Americans are going to think. They're going to sit there and go, who is that? For the American listeners and watchers, Suzanne Paul is basically the queen of infomercials in Australia and New Zealand. She does both, and she is exceptional. And it's just so funny because she just sits there and sells you products. And so just that she was on there was just so genius. I thought that was
Yes.
a great choice. And then, of course, we had Rena Owen, who came in later, which people would know from, Return of the Jedi, is it? No, one of them.
Is she in a Star Wars film?
She's in a Star Wars
See,
film.
I didn't recognise her. Yeah.
Right. She's in a Star Wars and she's in... I'll remember that later. But she was in big New Zealand blockbusters.
Huge.
But she's also a really well-respected actor. So we come in, it's next day, we're in the workroom, and off we start already. So etc. is already going once again.
Yes.
Off she goes once again about that bloody ball dress.
She did not like it.
No, again.
I didn't mind it.
I didn't mind it either. I don't know what she's going on about.
Like, I think Keita has a real talent of taking something that maybe is a little bit, like they said, trash.
Yeah.
But she soups it up. She's got the expressions. She's got the makeup. She
It
was
suits her
bold.
character too.
That's it. It's very
It suits her character.
pop art, you know?
And that whole sort of drag, it's very Priscilla-y in its way because, you know, when Tim Chappell designed all those costumes, it was a lot of it. They didn't have a big budget for that film. And so when he put those sort of things together, it was, you know, putting thongs together on, you know, and he went to Kmart and bought them out of thongs and turned it into a dress.
Yeah.
And pipe cleaners for hair. You know, like, I mean, that was the sort of drag he was having to do.
Yes.
Because their budget was tiny.
I just realised it was like, you know, the carnival clowns?
Yes.
Where you put the ball in the mouth?
Absolutely.
I didn't even realise that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. It's that. I thought it was
perfect.
fabulous.
No, I liked it.
Very clever. But in we go. Ru comes into the room and we are into the reading challenge. I actually thought across the board, this is better than a lot of the US seasons.
Yes.
I think they all came in with, very prepared. I thought etc. was quite... I don't think there was anyone apart from Scarlett that sort of was weak.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I really thought that I was quite proud of Art Simone, who ended up taking it out, because you could tell that she'd taken on that feedback from the Snatch game. She was quick, she got in, she got it done, she didn't piss fart around and waffle on. Like, she really just had these zingers.
Yep.
I really enjoyed Ketamine as well.
Yes.
I think even, like, just that first one with Electroshock just saying, man...
And that was it.
Comedy. It was so good. But you're right. Like, I think what is really great about Australian humour is the fact that, you know, Maxi Shield just said, if I threw a stick, would you run after it?
Yes,
just calling her a dog.
Calling her a dog.
Like, it's perfect.
Both Maxis that they showed were zingers, and then I also did love that Maxi turned to beautiful Paul. Is it Paul?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
she said,
twins.
"Look, it's like twins with the
So
with
good.
the pit crew." And I mean,
So
that's
good.
just fab. All of that sort of stuff, you can see that they're all having a great time.
Yes.
And that was what was really fun, and it didn't get too mean in that. In the workroom, and
Totally.
I even the they/them joke went down a
loved it.
treat.
Mm-hmm.
It went down really, really well. So there was some really clever stuff, and Ru was obviously having a big laugh over it all.
And what's great about this is that with this season, the reading challenge usually comes at least halfway, whereas
Yeah.
this time they're doing it a quarter of the way in, kind of like Snatch Game. They're still all trying to get it to know each other,
Yeah.
and they're just having to go in and be as cutthroat as possible. So I was
think
proud
at
of them.
least in that point, because so many of them knew each other, I think prior to
That's
going
true,
in,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think they had a bit of an advantage
Absolutely.
of that. But it is, they were great, and I think it was a really fun and well done read. I
Yes.
thought it was, you know, a really good one for all the seasons.
Do you think Art deserved to win?
Look, I thought it should have been Art or Maxi, and I keep feeling like Maxi's so close that, like, she's had a couple of. Last week, I felt like it should have been Maxi winning last week in that fabulous Vivienne Westwood.
Oh, yes.
I thought she should have won with that. And this week, you know, I thought her reading challenge was great. And I mean, look, there were so many good ones, but Art, you know, that they/them joke, I think, was the clincher.
Wow, yeah.
It was just so clever and so well timed. I thought all of that was fabulous.
Yeah.
So then, of course, Ru briefs them on the Maxi challenge, which this week was selling your product. We've all seen this challenge before a million times. This, I found it odd because she said it was about a yeast spread
Yeah.
is what they had to market. And I thought the yeast spread is so, I mean, they were basically doing a Vegemite.
It's Vegemite, yeah.
But it just felt like it just wasn't the easiest one to do because you're going to give them a brown paste and not have anybody doing poo jokes, and it just
It's going to be
seemed-
vulgar, yeah.
Exactly. Like, I think when you've got something like a soft drink can or something like that, which they've done
True,
on the
yes.
Americans, it's been much more, you know, easy to do and to be cleverer and to be a bit more diverse about it. But I think that when you're actually giving them literally an empty jar of Vegemite, or a jar of Vegemite,
Yeah.
it just felt a bit like, oh,
And saying the word yeast, yeah.
and saying yeast. And you know what you're going to get. You're going to get yeast infection jokes. And you're going to get. I mean, what else are you going to get?
Yeah.
That's literally that's the only thing you can do with it. So again, it's one of those things where I feel like the Americans have sort of done all of these Australianisms, but not got them quite right, or not got them quite. I don't know. It just
Yeah.
feels a bit contrived. I wish that there was, because we're so cultural cringy anyway, there's just a bit too much. And I feel like it's the same with the category this week. It's Sheila, and like last time it was Bogan. And I'm just like, oh, God, can we just
Agreed, yeah.
Can we just have a normal challenge that doesn't relate to being, you know, sort of Bogan Aussie, basically?
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of very much being painted with this Aussie brush, and
Yeah.
it's and you know, in that way I feel for the New Zealand Queen sometimes as well. Do they have Marmite over there?
Yeah,
Is
they
that
have
what they have?
Marmite
Yeah,
over
yeah,
there.
okay. So they do
I
have
actually
that.
think they have Vegemite.
Do they?
Do they have, I think they have Vegemite.
There's Promite as well.
Oh, is there Promite?
Yeah.
What's that do?
It's
But I felt like it should have been a mite challenge. That, you know, it seemed odd that they went with yeast. It was like,
yeah.
oh, God, are we
Or
doing
and
this?
just any kind of jar challenge, or I don't know. Just you are right though. It does feel a little bit.
I just
obvious.
felt like they could have had empty jars, and then they could have put whatever they wanted in it, and then
Totally.
it would become a different product because it was definitely a yeast spread. You were going to get what you were going to get.
Yeah.
So we go into the actual into the challenge. We saw varying degrees of Michelle being happy with people and not.
Yes.
Maxi seemed to be given the cut that was, oh, she was useless and she forgot everything, which I'm sure Maxi probably got a bit flustered at times, but it seemed like they were definitely setting her up.
What I liked about this particular challenge is that we got to see the queens as they are. I feel like we haven't gotten many insights in that way. Of course, we do have the Maxi challenge, but this was maybe for the first time since that first acting challenge that we've gotten to see Maxi as Maxi, and I thought she looked beautiful in this challenge.
Fabulous.
She looked gorgeous. But each of them kind of went into it, I think, like, well, Karen straight up said, I think Maxi's going to kill this one. I think this is, she could sell, what did she say? She could sell something to someone.
Yeah.
But either way.
Snow to a snowman or something like that. Yeah.
But so she did kind of have that going into it. But I think each of them really, I don't know, I think they kind of cracked under pressure a little bit.
Yeah.
All of them did in front of Michelle and
Again, I did think it was just because they were all stuck sort of doing the same thing. And I think when you're working in those close quarters and you're trying to do your own joke and you're sitting next to somebody else who's doing a joke and you're like, oh, well, they're doing that. She's doing the pink flamingos joke, so I can't do that. So it's just, I felt like, interestingly, even though Arts I didn't feel came across that well when we saw the whole clip, I thought that the idea of a repellent for Americans was funny, but you could see on Michelle's face she did not like being called a yank.
No.
She did not like yank.
Didn't like the koala reference.
Yeah, she's like, you think Americans think as all? Well, there have been plenty, doll. I mean, you haven't because you have some awareness of the world, but there's plenty who have, so.
But I think all of them kind of got read a little bit for being a little bit vulgar, for being, and that's what I found really funny in this episode, the fact that, et cetera, she kind of screwed her nose up at some of the other girls who were maybe taking that vulgar route, and then next minute she's marketing piss.
She's marketing piss
it
in
was
a
so
yellow
funny
dress.
though. Yeah, that was funny.
Look, I don't think anything was a complete disaster. I just feel like some of them were, it just could have been strong. Some of them just could have been stronger. I didn't think anything was absolutely terrible. But, when you're thinking about all those commercials, I mean, obviously, and Electra won this challenge. Electra's was very funny. She still looked like a hatful of assholes, though. I mean, seriously.
I love Electra. I really do. And I think what also struck the judges with her is the fact that she went in, she knew exactly what she was doing, she knew exactly how to use the pit crew to her advantage.
Yeah.
She had a strategy going in. Whereas I think some of the ladies just kind of got there with their, crass idea, but didn't actually know how they were going to implement it, which I thought was really unfortunate with Maxi, because I loved her vision and I loved her idea, and I think she could sell it. But just kind of once she was in the space, she didn't use it enough. She didn't move around enough. She didn't use the pit crew to her advantage.
No, she should have done another costume change.
Yeah.
She should have had like a jacket saying here at the Hornbag Institute.
Gotten that on the floor, gotten the tits
then when she got
out.
her tits out,
Yes.
but it was odd that she sort of did her Mrs. Slocum outfit and which was her backup for Snatch Game, by the way.
Really?
So her other one that wasn't Magda was going to be Mrs. Slocum. So she had the pussy and the costume. So she's obviously
Perfect.
gone, I've got it in my bag, I can use that.
Yes.
Let's sell it, but I'll be Mrs. Slocum. But I think Mrs. Slocum should have got her tits out.
That's what
That
we know
was all.
Maxi for.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know. So it just felt it was disappointing. I actually really liked Keita's. I thought Keita's was funny, and obviously the Pink Flamingos thing. I enjoyed watching Michelle Visage explain that scene to Suzanne.
Oh, yeah.
That made me giggle. I liked seeing that. And who else was strong in the challenge?
I thought Keita Mean was very strong, obviously.
Yeah. I was disappointed in Karen.
Yeah, so was I. I thought the bottom three, Karen was in it as far as the challenge. Because you think Karen from Finance, she's that straighty 180 character in a way, but base level straighty 180 character who could sell something like that in a really funny, nuanced way. But I've forgotten it. I actually forget what hers was about.
Yeah, look, she did. Oh gosh, what was hers? She did the discharge.
Yeah, that's right, the discharge, and you could use it as sun lotion.
As sunblock. But I felt like she should have been Karen in The Office. she should have actually been more Karen from finance.
Yes.
And, but when everyone's left work for the day, I always have this, and then it becomes an office party or whatever,
Totally.
That sort of feel that she could have gone further with her Karen from finances, I don't know or even if she branded it more on herself. You know how we've seen some of those challenges previously, and Ru's always said, why haven't you branded it more to you? And I felt like Discharge didn't sort of brand it to Karen, whereas something like Karen from Finance's, end of year, special or, something like that. Like, I feel like it needed to be end of financial year, blah, 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 and sort of make more out of who Karen from Finance is.
Yes.
But it sort of didn't go there, and I just felt like she was weak on that character.
And she was someone who was so excited for the acting challenge. But again, I'm like, this was a chance for you to all inject yourself into this and use a little bit of that personality, and I just didn't get that from Karen.
No, and it was disappointing because obviously she didn't have a good week last week, and this week I kind of thought she'd be up the top.
Yeah.
And it just didn't go that way for her. And I really did feel this week that we missed something from not having an untucked moment. I know that we only have moments, but I know there was so much to fit into the episode. But not being able to see how the girls were feeling after Ru had done after they'd seen their ads, because of course they never see them until that moment on the runway. So they could have created it, but they don't know what graphics are getting put behind them, or this is all being done by editors overnight. So as when they see it on the runway the next day,
first time,
that it's the first time they've seen it. So I feel like it would have been interesting hearing. But Maxi was already scared before she went in.
Yes.
Before she went onto the runway, she was sitting there before they were putting their faces on, and and she was worried already. And it was sad to see that, because you're kind of like, oh God. So let's go to the workroom. We finished doing the challenges. Everyone's back in the workroom, about to get ready for the runway, and probably one of the most interesting conversations, and this is a big topic to be bringing up in the show. And basically they said, one of the girls said, is there anything you've ever done in drag that you regret? And to her credit, I think Scarlett put her hand up and said, yes, I have previously done blackface. Now, a lot of us know about this. I don't know if you'd read about this before.
I had, going into it,
So we sort of knew that it was coming, and when people were calling for her to be taken off the show, etc., not etc., but when people were calling to have Scarlett taken off the show, people were adamant about that, but the show said, we deal with it.
Yes.
And that was a really interesting thing to know, that they were going to, and that it had been brought to their attention. So Scarlett basically says she has done blackface previously, and quite a harsh reaction from etc., and also from Art about how they felt about it. Maxi sort of came in with talking about, well, I grew up in Queensland, so, things were not... there was a lot of casual racism. It's just something that we dealt with. And then etc. says, oh, well, I don't think there's anything entertaining, though. That casual racism's one thing, but actually getting paid money to do a number for this. So this is a big conversation. What did you sort of feel from that moment in the workroom?
Yeah, it was a big moment, and I think one that a lot of Drag Race fans, like you said, did anticipate going in. If you've been following the story, I feel like we've all kind of been waiting for when this was going to happen. And for me, it's interesting as well that this episode is going to be airing in the midst of Reconciliation Week.
Yes.
And the theme of Reconciliation Week is more than a word, it takes action. And I think, I was watching this and I had a moment where I thought, I wish Jojo Zaho was here.
Yep.
I wish she was here in the workroom and able to speak on this.
And Coco.
But at the same time, I also think it was a great example of allyship from both Art Simone and etc., because it showed me, and it's going to show the audience, that you can step up and you can be, and that would have been really difficult, you know, like being able to sit there in the workroom with someone that is your colleague, essentially, your peer, a fellow drag queen, and call out the behaviour, call out what needs to be done, that it is more than just an apology, reparations need to be made about something that is a systemic issue, and being able to call out your friend there and say what you're thinking and say what you're feeling. And more than that as well, I think it was probably good that Jojo Zaho wasn't there, because I don't think it takes another person of colour to have to educate and to have to, you know, speak on these issues. For me, it really showed us that you can be a good ally and that you can call your friends out, speak on this issue appropriately, and we don't have to rely on people of colour to have to be the ones to call us out on this. So I thought that this conversation was so insightful, and I'm proud of Art Simone and et cetera, for being honest and for, not just letting it slide. And Maxi kind of did that as well. You know, she said, yes, we had these conversations, but they were never put into, you know, they were conversations that were had. So I thought it was a very interesting way of touching on it.
Yes.
And then it was brought up again.
And so Ru then brings it up on the runway. And I gasped when Ru said the words, and she said, I have people who would probably say to me, you should be cancelled right now, but I want to hear from you. And gave Scarlett the opportunity to try and make amends or try and explain her actions. I thought that was very powerful of Ru giving that moment to her.
I'm in two minds about it though, because she even said, it's just come to my attention. Really? You know, and there are producers on this show. I don't know if this is something that's only just come to light because Art Simone brought it up in the workroom. You know what I mean? And I don't know if this is a little too harsh, but Scarlett is obviously a very talented drag queen. There's no question about it.
Yes.
But Ru even said in her critique, she's got a lot to learn. And considering this controversy, considering this is something that Scarlett said has been brought up even more recently with the Black Lives Matter campaign, did she need to be on this first season of Down Under? I'm not saying she didn't deserve to, but did she need to be? And I'm not even asking you that, I'm just putting it out there that it's just, you know, I understand bringing it up and I understand, Ru kind of giving her that opportunity, but I don't know if this is something that maybe Scarlett's camp and the RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under camp could have kind of like worked with and explored a little bit more. And
I mean, obviously we found it disappointing anyway that our two POCs were gone in episode 1 and episode 3. They went so fast. And then to not have any Māori representation either.
That's it.
Where we know that there are fabulous Māori drag queens like Bertha and Buckwheat and Testicle and these great girls over there. The fact that those are not part of, that there weren't any Māori representation, that our two POCs were already gone, it was an interesting point in the show to have that come up, I thought, without then anybody apart from Ru on the panel who could actually speak in that position.
That's
I did feel I liked that Ru didn't just immediately cancel her. I liked that she gave her the opportunity and that there was a kindness from Ru, obviously, to Scarlett, because obviously Scarlett's devastated about this. She's done more mea culpas online and she does it on the show, and, you know, she's been trying very hard to make amends for it. And I think it would have been in an already stressful environment. I thought that at least Scarlett carried herself and tried to explain. And I mean, look, it's one of those things that we know has happened. It's happened in entertainment, you know, for decades. It's not happening anymore. We can't have it happen. But it's a conversation I think was so important for the show to have.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad that they did do it and that they have, in a way, at least dealt with it on the show, because when I was wondering how it was going to come up, and to see it done like this and to have Ru speak on it, you know, I think it was very powerful.
Yeah,
It was a
definitely.
powerful moment. So, moving on, let's go into looking at our runway and who was hideous or heaven.
Drag hack, yup, a drag hack.
All right, it is time to play Hideous or Heaven with all of our girls who have been on the runway this week. This week, the category was Finest Sheila in the Bush. Another offensively Australian title, but here we are. So our first up on the runway today was Electra Shock. She was wearing that sort of flowing brown. There was a bit of a corset. There was some glittery nipples, some painted on hair. What did you think, Lucy?
Heaven.
See, I thought it was hideous.
Really?
Yes.
And I could be biased just because I'm loving her at the moment.
Okay.
But I loved the silhouette. I thought her makeup was really lovely. I liked that she wasn't wearing a dried out wig and that
Yeah.
she had painted it on. And I think she kept it simple.
Yes.
Although it was quite obviously elegant, she kept it simple. She took off a few things and I think it just, it worked for her.
Look, I think if she wasn't so good in her ad, then I think she could have ended up in the bottom
Agreed.
as well.
Yeah.
But there you go. Next up, we had Keita Mean. Keita had that beautiful outfit that was sort of a million butterflies around her head. She looked quite fabulous. What were your thoughts?
Heaven.
Heaven.
I'm worried I'm going to be heaven for a lot of these, but I just thought she was right. She kind of paid homage to that gorgeous bush wildlife scene. She had
Yeah.
all the colours, but it was so Keita.
It was very her and very glamorous. She really can serve a lot of glamorous looks walking down there. And I didn't think this one was so kooky, which was nice after last week's
Yeah.
balls. You know, it was nice to do something that was quite fabulous. But yes, I'm with you. It's heaven, heaven for Keita Mean. Maxine Maureen Shield came out in her fabulous, I did really enjoy this. She was doing Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Yes.
I loved this.
I loved it too. Would I say it fits in the... no, I would say it's heaven. I'd say it's heaven.
Well, it's because it's the girls in the bush. I'm saying
They
heaven
are
as
Sheilas
well.
in the bush.
They are Sheilas in the bush,
Yep.
and I love the idea that it was paying homage to a movie that I don't think anyone on the panel had seen, because no one seemed to get any. They were doing Scarlett O'Hara references. I'm like, wrong show,
reference.
wrong movie. Come on.
And she was even doing the motions as she went back. She's like,
And she got scared, and then
Yes.
I thought she did a great
Down to
job
the
of that.
hair.
Oh, the hair was fab. And you know what's nice too? It's when Maxi does something different like that, that's not the boobs out and the pair of hot pants.
Yeah.
I actually really liked the fact that she was in a gown, it was period, she had the hair up. It was a different look for her.
wild that was kind of understated for Maxi.
Yes.
You know?
I know. But I loved it, and I thought they were a bit mean to Maxi this week when
Yeah.
they just sort of thought it was a bit plain. But, you know, anyway, heaven for Maxi. Karen from Finance was wearing her tribute to the Country Fire Association, the CFA in Victoria. She had a yellow sort of fabulous... It was really high fashion though, wasn't it?
Well, she said it was Coco Chanel.
Yes.
Enters the bush.
And I quite enjoyed that with the hat, which was all demonted. I loved the demonted koala. I thought all of that looked really fantastic. And the big hose, which provided them with many a hose and hoe reference.
Good entertainment.
I thought that was good. Karen, well done.
Heaven.
Double heaven. Art Simone came out, she had her Dryzabone on, she had the hat, she had a million corks. As Rina said, I think, God, she must have drunk a lot of wine to get this hat made. It's true. It would be funny if that's what she did. That was what she made during quarantine in New Zealand.
Yes.
She just drank that many bottles of
Boom, boom,
wine and
boom.
kept sewing another cork on. That's probably, that was her quarantine hat.
While she was waiting to come back to the series.
Yeah, probably
yes.
that was
yes.
it. So the thing was, I thought I didn't like the first bit, but then she, of course, stripped off, revealed Cath Day Nights.
So I'm in two minds about this. Heaven for Cath Day Night.
Yep.
Half hideous
I
because
didn't like the first bit because I also thought that brown jacket and then the white slacks underneath. I felt like it could have been better.
more than that, I feel like some of these girls are utilising their would-be Snatch Game character. Like you just mentioned with Maxi before, with Karen doing Chappelle Corby last week, with Art Simone clearly should have done Cath Day Night for the Snatch Game, but maybe didn't because of Taste doing it in the UK season. I don't
think she wouldn't have known that. She wasn't out. That wasn't out yet when
That's
they
true.
filmed. So
I don't know. I'm just kind of a little bit off this very character-based dressing up.
Yeah, I thought, look, I think the Cath Day, she did a great Cath Day Night.
Yeah.
But I think the first bit just wasn't high up enough for me.
Yep.
So I think it's a bit of both. Etc., etc. Now this, I actually think this was my favourite on the runway tonight. Heaven.
It was very, that colourful. It was very Romance Was Born, you know, Ken Doan-esque.
Yes.
It reminded me of the Bush Babies as well.
Yeah,
like Snuggle Putt and Cuddle Pie.
I was very Snuggle Putt and Cuddle Pie. That's what I was seeing, which I loved that. And I loved that, you know, it was a big coat and then the reveal to the blackened bush and then the regrowth. I just thought it told the biggest story out there. And I think that this was the craziest part of her ending up in the lip sync was that she certainly... Rue really, really didn't like that piss commercial.
Yeah.
That was the issue.
Oh, and you know what I was going to say as well? It's interesting. I feel like on this season, Rue is giving more critiques to the girls than previously, both in UK and the US.
Yeah.
Usually she kind of just sits there, she listens to what Michelle and the other judges have to say, and then she kind of like says her piece once they're back in Untucked. But she's actually been quite honest and open. And the fact that, she said, I didn't really like your commercial at all.
Yeah.
To etc. there and then was pretty wild.
That was bold, wasn't it? Well, I felt really bad for etc. that she ended up in the bottom with this beautiful gown. One of my favourite looks. Absolute heaven. Thank you. Scarlett Adams came out in the iconic Tim Chappell Felicia Jolly Goodfellow outfit from the top of the bus in Priscilla. The catsuit, it was a beautiful make of this, I thought.
The structure was incredible.
Yeah, the fact that she could make that look like it did. And I've seen a lot of people try and do that bus moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the damn musical and we had to do it in the show. But, you know, when we did it in the show, we had like 6 wind machines and giant pieces of fabric. This, I thought, was really clever to have that come on. She did look $1 million. She really did. I thought that was a great one. And it was nice to finally get a bit of a tribute to Priscilla.
I was wondering if we would get a tribute in the music perhaps or with a lip sync, but I think this nipping it in the bud, and she has such poise with her walk to be able to have that structure behind her, but still be able to like look the judges in the eye, own the runway.
Yeah,
I thought it was heaven.
Heaven. And that backpack would have been heavy.
Oh, yeah.
So moving on then, we've seen all the runway looks. We get to the bottom 2. It's Maxi Shield against etc., etc.
I was sad about this.
It was a hard one because it wasn't the two... I don't think anyone wanted to see either of them go.
2 Sydney queens up against each other as well. 2
Sydney up against each other, exactly. And I thought it was too early for both of them, but we had a banger of a track. Finally, they listened. Vanessa Amorosi's Absolutely Everybody, a classic fucking number.
That's a moment.
The best one because we needed that song. Absolutely Everybody had to be on Aussie Drag Race.
You know what got me as well? The fact that this song came out huge in the year 2000, etc. would have been 1 year old when it came out. Maxi would have been 20-something.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 queens going up against each other on this track.
Do you know what? Maxi was in the closing ceremony of the Olympics where Vanessa sang Absolutely Everybody. And
Maxi said, I'm ready.
Was a drag queen on the thing in the big Sydney drag part of the... Maxi was already there.
No wonder she said, I'm ready for this.
Oh, yes. And her pulling the microphone out of her sleeve was genius. No one's done that. And I absolutely thought, because when I come and watch Maxi a lot here, actually, at Ginger's on Oxford Street, Maxi Shields here every Friday and Saturday. And on Friday nights, seeing Maxi pull the microphone out and get up, and that's what she always does. That's how she does spot numbers.
Yeah.
To see her do sort of iconic Maxi doing that, I loved it. It was a hard lip sync. They were both fantastic.
Yeah, I thought, etc. really brought that energy and that exuberance, whereas Maxi kind of brought the vocal,
Absolutely, and she really nailed all of the Vanessa, isms, and it was a great lip sync. It was a great way to end this episode. It was a roller coaster of emotions tonight. We started high, we've gone everywhere.
Yes.
And to have, that exuberant, fabulous lip sync.
Unifying. It was a unifying moment for all the queens. Yeah.
It was, and I'm just so thrilled that we got that moment. Sad to see etc. go, but glad that we still have Maxi in the comp.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next week. Mm-hmm. Lucy Smith, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Recapping RuPaul's Drag Race, episode 5.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Drag hack, yup, a drag hack.
After an explosive 5 episodes, the controversial etc. made her exit. We're so excited to have her join us on the show today. Here she is, etc. Etc. It is so fabulous to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, no worries. It's even more fabulous to be here.
How are you feeling? You're the 5th queen out of the season. How are you feeling today about the whole experience?
Well, 5 fingers is a fist, so I always enjoyed that, and I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying lasting this long, to be honest. I said to my friend the other day, I said, it wasn't a sprint and it wasn't a marathon, but it was a leisurely stroll through, the neighbourhood. And I enjoy that I was there for long enough for people to get to know me, but not too long that they really start to hate me. I think that's important.
Well, you certainly were one of the most opinionated queens on the season. How do you feel that, have you had a good reaction to that from people?
Well, I'm not just opinionated on the season, I'm also very opinionated off the season. So I really, when people were like, oh no, she's such a bitch, I'm like, you wait till you meet me in real life. You'll think I'm even more of a bitch then. So honestly, I think it was fine. Of course, people are always going to have opinions about people they see on reality TV that they've never met and say, oh, I don't like so-and-so. But I've had such a wonderful, core fan base of amazing fans who have supported me and love what I do and understand that I'm very opinionated. That's just who I am, and they love it. And they're the people that I'm sticking with. People are always gonna dislike you, and if anything, it just makes me get out of bed in the morning.
Absolutely. What did you think was the proudest moment on the show?
I was very, very proud about being able to represent my gender identity and speak to that in terms of my experience growing up in Australia. I mean, we've had non-binary representation on other seasons of Drag Race. We've had, Bimini, and we've had Ginny, and we've had Bob the Drag Queen. But I think having it from an Australian perspective is really important. Australia has a really toxic gender issue. And I think being able to stand up there and be like, I'm a non-binary person. I deconstruct gender in an Australian context, and I understand the same cultural references as you, but I use these pronouns. I think it's really great for Australian audiences to see and have that representation. Because
absolutely, and there was it was really in the forefront of this episode, particularly. We got to really we'd spoken about it, but I think this was a really great episode to see and to really talk about it within the show. So congratulations on that, because I think it was a great conversation to have, and I think it's going to be a conversation that continues on.
Well, I hope so. I mean, now as a person on TV, my only job is to start conversations, and my only job is to encourage dialogue and to get people talking about things. And I'd rather get them talking about things that matter, like, curbing the suicide rates of our trans youth and creating safer spaces for trans youth across this country, and the issues around safe schools being pulled back, and all of these things where our culture tries to silence and oppress gender diverse people. I think it's really important to be loud about these things. I would rather be too loud about it than a little bit too quiet and get swept into the background.
Well, often there's not enough of that conversation, not enough people being loud about it. So I feel it's a great thing that you've done on the show to really bring that forward.
Yeah, and I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. There have been generations of trans activists in this country who have paved the way for me to be able to do what I do and to continue this conversation. So I recognize the history, and it's such a privilege to be able to be here and carry this conversation forward, especially in mainstream media, like on Drag Race. It's really important, and I don't take it lightly to be able to have these conversations.
And it was great too, I think, because we got quite a personal moment from you when you explained about at a time you thought you were going to actually transition. It was very personal, and we got a real idea of how you've come to be, of your journey so far.
Yeah, and I think that's important for people to understand. And like I said, people think it's black and white, but there's a lot of grey. And gender is such a personal experience. And you identify how you need to identify to wake up every morning and feel good about yourself. And it just so happens that I can put a label on mine for visibility, and I can say I'm non-binary and this is who I am. But there are so many iterations of gender identity out there that people can't label or don't want to label or just want to be. And I think that's so important to say, you don't have to conform to A or B. You can if you want. That's totally fine. But no one really gets told when they're at school or when they're growing up, you can be whatever you want to be job-wise. You can be a fireman, you can be a teacher, you can be, whatever you want. But no one ever says you can grow up and you can be the person that you want to be. And I think that needs to be said a bit more. So I'm happy to say it.
Great. Now, you had some very memorable runway looks. What was your favourite?
Look, I know a lot of people gave me shit for it and they didn't like it, and I understand it as well, but the bogan look for me, highlight. I know it wasn't suitable for the Drag Race main stage. I was wearing an Ugg boot. It was just a tracksuit. But for me, that was such a representation of the bogans I grew up with. I went to school with this girl who would wear that to every formal event, and she was the most bogan person I've ever met. And to be able to bring someone like that to the runway, the people I grew up with, the Australian culture that I resonate with, that was such a fun moment for me. And the nails, I had so much fun with the nails. I was backstage picking up grapes one at a time, popping them in my mouth. But that was special. I also love this week's runway. This week's runway was like visually was one of my favorites to execute.
It was a really beautiful story this week. Yeah. I love that story of the bushfire it was quite amazing.
Thank you. It was one of those ones that I had in my face and I was like, if I don't get to wear this, I'll be fucking pissed, because it was just like, I told a story that I think so many Australians relate to. And so many Australians want the world to hear that we live in a country that has these horrific bushfires that affect communities all around this country. And they're just going to get worse because of climate change. They're just going to get worse because of global warming. And like nature, we have to evolve, we have to regenerate, and we have to create a future that we can still live in this beautiful country, and appreciate its beauty.
And I love that both you and Karen this week sort of told different parts of that story.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not an Indigenous person, so I can't really tell the story of the land, the stolen land I live on. So I wanted to tell a story that I had personal connection to with the bushfires in Canberra when I was growing up. And I think Karen also told a story that she personally connects to. And I think that's really important. I mean, Sheila, for me, is a little Aussie battler, to quote Muriel's Wedding. It's someone that is a little Aussie battler. And I think at the end of the day, so many Australians are in this consistent battle with living in rural and country areas. And I think they need to be spotlighted more. There are so many queer people that live in regional Australia who don't get the spotlight. And I think it's really important to represent for those people.
It's always those loud city queens.
I know, all these loud city slickers. Get a couple of yobbos out from the bush and get them on Drag Race.
Now, you had some fantastic workroom looks. I, of course, am a huge fan of Frida Las Vegas. Tell me how that collaboration came about.
So Stav Ruler, who runs Frida Las Vegas, her and I have been friends for ages. Since I moved to Sydney, pretty much. I'm pretty sure I was at a party and I saw what she was wearing and she saw what I was wearing. And we had, that little moment where we had a cocktail and we were like, God, you're fabulous. You're fabulous. We love each other. And then from there, we've done so many cool things together. Like we've done little shoots and collaborations and, dinner parties. And when I was going on Drag Race, I was like, in the workroom, I want something that's easy to wear, that I feel feminine in, and will be really bold and represents fun things from Australian culture. And so the first person I thought of was Frida Las Vegas. I mean, how fun were some of those glamour sacks?
They were amazing. They were absolutely brilliant, and I love the glamour sacks myself. I've got one, and so I love to wear it. It's so fantastic, and it really is. It was quintessentially Australian. So I thought it was so great to see Stav's designs go out there and be seen by so many people.
It was so wonderful. And her and I, we've done a collaboration with local queer youth charity 2010, where we've been auctioning off the glamour sacks I wore on the show for charity. And so far we've raised nearly $2,000 from that to donate. So it's been really special. Yeah, it's been really special to take something I wore on the show that people loved and then say, you know what, we'll auction these off and we'll give the money to something that matters. It's been so great to see the response from people. There's people every week that log on and they're like, I want to grab this week's one. And I'm like, well, it's first in, best dressed.
That's fantastic. I love that you're doing that. So were there any of the girls that you had worked with before? Were there people who you knew when you went on the show?
I had worked with or met everyone but Electra. She was the only person I hadn't met. So I'd met and worked with Anita and Keita when they'd come over and done Broken Heel Festival, and I'd done bits and pieces with everyone else. If I hadn't worked with them, at least I'd had a cocktail with them, or I'd said hello to them at a club or something, or had a convo. Like I knew of everyone and I felt comfortable around pretty much everyone. It was this Electra who was the dark horse of the competition.
And you got to lip sync against Maxi Shield for this episode. How was that lip sync for you? How did you feel?
Let me tell you, I got to lip sync against a legend of Australian drag. And when I stepped on that stage, before we stepped on, Maxi and I looked at each other and we were like, let's just have fun, because that song is so joyous. And Maxi and I, we love drag, and we do drag because we love it so much. And we wanted just to have fun, and we wanted to perform how we would perform that song to a crowd of people, whether she's at the Oxford or I'm at the Imperial. We just wanted to have fun. And it was such a pleasure. And at the end of the day, a legend sent me home. And so I have nothing to complain about. Absolutely nothing.
That's wonderful. And it was a great performance from both of you. I think it was a tough decision for Ru.
Look, it was the glittery microphone that pushed her over the edge. Her in her little frock, looking like that with a glittery microphone. It was so camp. As soon as she pulled that out, she'd be carrying it around for weeks, by the way, just in case she needed it at any point. She pulled it out, and as soon as she pulled it out, it was like, it's over. But it's fine. I'm going to give a good performance anyway. But I knew as soon as she pulled that microphone out, I said, I'm a goner. Maxi strikes again.
Well, I was really happy for Maxine to be there on the show, and she really was fantastic in that lip sync. You both were. It was a really tough lip sync, and I think it'll go down, I think for Australians certainly, as one of the great lip syncs on Drag Race history.
Look, at the end of the day as well, what a banger. What a banger.
Oh, it's the best song.
It's the first song that when I was there, I was like, I'm glad I got the first song I actually wanted to perform, So much fun.
Vanessa's going to be so thrilled that she's featured.
I know. What a great moment for her. And I mean, that song's so iconic to so many Australians. I remember singing that in primary school in the choir.
You're too young. You're too young.
Part of my childhood. It's
I was working at the Imperial when that song came out. So there you go. Now, darling, we're going to do some really quick fire questions. Are you ready?
I was born ready. Let's do it.
What is your favourite word or catchphrase?
My favourite word is scrumdiddlyumptious. Love that word. Love it.
What's your hidden talent?
Oh, I can open a bottle of beer with my armpit.
Sure. What's the wildest thing you've ever done in drag?
I've ridden a camel out at Uluru.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
What superpower do you wish you have?
Shape-shifting, because it would make getting into drag much quicker.
God, it would. I want that one too.
So quick.
What's the most important item you take when going on a trip?
I have so many. I'm one of those people that pack my handbag full of 1,000,001 things. At the moment, it's a portable phone charger, but it used to be lube and a bottle of Amyl. But I'm in a relationship now, so I don't need it as much. Still need it, but not as much.
Keeping it real, doll. Keeping it real. What's the greatest compliment you've ever received?
My mother, when she saw the first episode of Drag Race and she looked at me and she said, "Well, look, you don't look bad." And from my mother, that's $1 million. That's $1 million.
That's good. Yes, my mother watched my podcast last week and said, "Why did you wear that? You look."
I swear, my mum's on Reddit. She's on Reddit with all of the fans. She reads things on Reddit. She comes back to me and she tells me what she agrees with and what she doesn't agree with.
Okay, feathers or sequin?
Feathers.
Leather or lace?
Leather.
Who's your fashion icon?
Elsa Schiaparelli.
Fabulous. Weapon of choice?
A vodka Red Bull.
The question remains, tea or coffee?
Oh, definitely tea. And like a nice peppermint. A peppermint after 11 p.m.
When are you most productive?
At night, definitely at night. I'm not a morning person. I come alive at midday and I'll keep going till 5 a.m. But God, get me at 7 a.m. and I'm dead to the world.
Elevator or stairs?
Stairs. I don't go to the gym, so I've got to take every opportunity I can get.
Oh, you're such a skinny slip of a thing. You're far, does.
I go up a lot of stairs. I go up and down a lot of stairs.
Camping or hostel?
Oh, camping, just because, it's just a little bit of that.
And what brings you joy?
God. This is a conversation between me and my therapist now. I would say looking good and feeling good and living my authentic truth. That brings me joy.
Where can people see you perform right now?
Oh, there are so many places you can see me perform at the Imperial Hotel, at Universal, but something really exciting that you can watch is this Monday, I am dropping my debut single. Yes, that's right, a Ru girl releasing music. How original, but it is called Flush, and it has some very heavy piss and toilet-related metaphors. So you can catch that on every streaming service known to man, even eBay and Gumtree. It's on there. You can just bid for it. And the music video is dropping as well, featuring some of my favorite Inner West icons. Victoria Anthony's in it, and she brushes my hair in it. There's so many amazing, fantastic people that I worked with to make this song and this music video. And it's an ode to Inner West drag and the drag scene that birthed a disgusting, filthy little cockroach like me.
Well, thank you so much. We will be looking out for that on Monday. Thanks so much, etc., etc.
Thank you so much, Trevor. Mwah.
Thanks again for joining us at Drag Hag. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share as much as you like. We're on all good podcast platforms and on YouTube. Join us next Saturday at 5 p.m.
Drag Hag.
Thanks for watching my channel. If you'd like to see any more videos, just look here. And don't forget to like and subscribe.